good layers, and they are also chosen because they have good meat production. Now, we have no intentions of slaughtering the chickens. They are going to die of old age here, but these dual-purpose chickens are what a lot of people choose to grow in farm situations because they can raise them for both meat as well as for egg production. The gold ones are Buff Orpingtons, and that's a pretty large bird. And then the sort of brown-colored ones are golden laced Wyandottes. And then there's a black and white, and she's an American Dominique, and she is the oldest variety of chicken, or one of the oldest varieties of heritage chickens in the country. And all of them lay brown eggs, and they lay an egg every 36 hours, and in the summer months maybe a little more frequently, but in 2 days we always have over 7 eggs, and that's something that we can share with our neighbors. Our girls are very, very people friendly. They were raised from day-old chicks, and they have been hand-held since they first came to us. There are 2 groups here. There are 4 that are just a little better than 2 years. They were born in April of 11, and then there are 3 of them that came to us last year in July, so they're just a year old. And chickens will lay eggs heavily for about 3 years, and then their production just starts to wane, and an old chicken is a 7-year-old chicken. And you can see we've got a little molting going on with this one. Her feathers are a little bit funny, and we've noticed that this Wyandotte variety has a tendency to molt more so than the others, and that's when the feathers start to come off, and they do this once or twice a year, and it sometimes takes 3-4 months for their feathers to come back and for them to look normal again, and many times during that molting period they will also stop laying. So animal husbandry is a very interesting adventure, and another one of those arts that's a little bit lost to most of the people that are living in cities and suburbs today. So we are on our chicken learning curve, and that involved having a break-in by a possum and losing 2 chickens last year, and having to spend the night sleeping in the chicken coop a couple of times in order to figure out what was going on and how that little bugger was getting in there. And it's pretty troubling when you open the coop in the morning and feathers come flying and you realize that one of your birds has been decimated. But my understanding from people who are in the country and on farms is that if you have chickens, you will have death. There's usually a predator that will get into your chickens at least once during the time that you're raising them, and there are diseases that they can get and illnesses that they can get. We had a problem earlier when we were raising the second batch from hatchlings in their brooder. I made the mistake of introducing some dirt that had bacteria in it, and I was trying to provide them some grit a little earlier than they actually needed it, and they developed a bacterial infection that killed about half of the little day-old chicks that we had in their first couple of weeks. So there is a real learning curve here with some of this, and you need to have a bit of a thick skin in order to take it. But so far so good this year. Nobody has died, and everybody's healthy and laying eggs, and it's been a good year. So we'll go on and move on to the back, and we have some of our little feline friends there. That's Maggie and Rhea, and this is Theodore. And the one with the blue collar here got to be named Nuisance, and that's because he is a little bit of a nuisance in his demeanor. He meows a lot and is underfoot a lot, and we mean that in the kindest of ways. So we're coming to what is the rest of our little urban farm here, and this is the vegetable section. And it's been a little bit of a challenging year this year because we've had a cool spring, and so a lot of the cucurbits were slow to get going. Then we had a lot of rain, which wreaked havoc on the tomato plants. We can see in the back there's Mark all suited up in his bee suit. We have some hives, and he's, I think, adding some frames now. We'll take a walk through the vegetables and then work our way back to the bees. The peppers here are doing wonderfully. This is a red bell and a pepperoncini pepper. It's a pickling pepper, and there's 6 of each of those varieties here, and there were 6 tomatoes here, and there's one of the original left. These 2 are startups because we had a lot of reticulum wilt, and with the reticulum wilt you get, well, we can see a second sort of blight happening here. This is what happens, and all of a sudden the tomato that looks healthy one day sort of collapses on itself the next day. That's usually the result of too much water, and then you get this disease factor. A bacteria will grow. The one in the corner there that's being restarted is looking pretty good. In this climate, you can do 2 generations of tomatoes. You can see all these little pots, and this is the 2nd generation that I'm starting, hoping to replace what didn't succeed in the first round. Usually sometime between the 1st and the 15th of August. If you plant another grouping of tomatoes, you'll be able to have a nice fall harvest, and some of the heat and disease issues abate as you get to the fall. So sometimes you're a little more successful with your fall plantings than you are even with your spring plantings. So let's come down this way and take a look at what else is here. This is a grapevine, and it's a black muscadine called Noble. And we're going to be needing to net that very soon because we're going to have the birds coming into it as the vine ripens, or as the fruit ripens on the vine. They come on in and they tear up the fruit, and they don't eat every piece of fruit, but they tend to knock it all to the ground, so they can be very disruptive, and by using a little bit of netting we can keep them off the plant. And at the ground level here, this is our sweet potato plot, and they also went in a little late because it was chilly, and it took me a little while to get some starts going this year. And here again, I pick this up from a sweet potato from the grocery store, and in starting them, you just cut the sweet potato in half and bury it with about 1 inch of soil, and as soon as the temperatures are warm enough, it'll send up sprouts, and you can pull off those sprouts and then root them in a cup of water. And once they've started showing some roots, you can put them in the ground and start growing your own sweet potato plants. North Carolina is the largest producer of sweet potatoes in the United States, so we have just the right climate for them. And these will be ready sometime end of October to the end of November. We should have a nice little crop here for Thanksgiving. And moving further along, there's some really nice things growing in this bed. Most people take a look at this flower and they say, oh, you've got a wonderful Queen Anne's lace there, and I do, but it's a carrot, and carrots are in the Queen Anne's lace family, same family of plant, and we decided to let these carrots go to seed this year because it's taken a very long time for me to find a nice sweet carrot in this area, and I just have tried short ones and long ones, and all of them seem kind of bland tasting. And this year we picked up some seed, and it was the tastiest carrot that we've experienced yet. So we're going to hope that they are in fact heirlooms, and we can save this seed and grow this carrot again in the future. And the plant that's in the middle here is another very interesting variety. This is a hibiscus, and we've got lots of things that are in the hibiscus family in this area. That flowering plant that's got the pink flowers on it, that's a Rose of Sharon or an Althea. That's also a hibiscus. And okra is also a hibiscus. This particular one is called Rosella, and it is eaten in the Asian culture. The leaves are used in some of their sour recipes. So the Asian folks here in this community tend to grow this or to take this from some of the farmers markets for their leaves. The Hispanic community uses the pod of the flower to make a wonderful cold beverage. It's a red colored kind of lemony tasting beverage, and many of us know hibiscus tea, and that's also made from the pod, the flower pod. After the flower blooms, the seed pod produces a beautiful red seed pod, and that's what we make hibiscus tea from. So here's the challenge, though. I learned from one of the vendors at the farmer's market that she had been growing this for about 5 years, and in all the 5 years she's only seen flower production on it once, because our season is a little bit short for it to grow into its maturity before it gets cold here. So the Asian community can enjoy the leaves. As you see, they're very prolific, but those of us that want tea or beverages from this plant, we don't always get that during our growing season here. So we'll keep an eye on what this does as the year goes on. So now on from the hibiscus, this is a wonderful cucurbit that we have going here. This is a winter squash as well as a squash that can be eaten as a summer squash. It's Zucca rampicata or Zucca trombetta. And again, mine are quite late because of whatever this environmental season has done. I had a really terrible time trying to start them in the spring, so at about the 1st of July I pushed in some seeds directly into the soil as opposed to using the starts that I had had earlier in the season. And this is what they've done in those couple of weeks. And this will produce a squash that is a very long, light green color. It will be something that we can eat and pick when it's at that stage, or we can let it stay on the vine and then it becomes a very pretty pale orange like the color of a butternut, and it's a winter squash then that we can save through the winter. So I typically grow a lot of it and use it both ways, and I have a feeling this year we may only get winter squash because it seems to be coming in so slowly. This is a non-heirloom pepper. It is an ancho pepper, and this pepper is loaded, the plants are just loaded with little green peppers. This is a wonderful smoking pepper, so we'll go ahead and put it in the grill a little later this year and we'll smoke it, and when we go to do that we'll video that so everybody can see how that works. And sometimes it's referred to as poblemo. This green will turn a red color, and it is a spicy pepper, but it's not a murderous pepper. It's one that you can stand to eat. It's not one that you have to feel like you have to have a cold drink sitting next to you if you're eating it. And when you smoke it and dry it, it's a wonderful additive to many dishes. Gives a lot of really good smoky peppery flavor. There's a vendor at the farmer's market that says that she goes ahead and dries all of her extra peppers after she's done growing and selling, and mixes them all different varieties together, and then she grinds it and sprinkles it onto, she said, everything that she eats. It sits on the kitchen table the way you would put a salt shaker out. And so this is a variety, once smoked, that would have a really nice application like that. These are classic eggplants, and this is the variety that most people are used to. They grow those very large purple fruit, and they can be used in eggplant parmesan, and they're also very good in different sauces. And so if you're doing a tomato sauce and you want to do a ratatouille type of a sauce, I make, that's Rhea that's walking around here, I make an Italian recipe that's called caponata, and it's a combination of it's a cold kind of hors d'oeuvre, and it has raisins and eggplant and squash and tomatoes and olives and capers, and you do it in you cook it in a lot of different stages so that you get the richness of the combination of flavors, and this makes a wonderful choice of eggplant for that. So these eggplants have been in since early season, and this is the second harvest of fruit that we're seeing, or the second crop of fruit. What eggplants do is they put out a flower, and then they put out a fruit, and then about 3 weeks later you see another upper branching layer of fruit develop, and then another layer of fruit develop. And the larger the plant, the more fruit that will happen in each individual layer. But you can see that the fruit tends to happen at different stages, and this one is starting to mature, and then we're just starting to see the next set of fruit come right there. So as we're going around the garden, let's look at this. Unfortunately, we did not have a lot of tomato success. In this particular bed, there were 6 tomatoes, and every one of them succumbed to reticulum wilt. And so what we ended up doing was putting another plant in here, and some of them have made it and some of them have died. Coming around here, we have got another pepper, and this pepper is another one that is also not an heirloom. I have just harvested off of it, so there's not too much fruit left. But you can see right here we've got a little fruit, and that is a cubanelle pepper. And what's really great about this pepper, it's a sweet pepper, and it grows to be something that's like maybe 6 to 7 inches long, and it can be used for stuffing, it can be used for roasting, it can be used in grilling applications, it can be used in sautés. Any way you would use a sweet pepper, this pepper is wonderful for that.